Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever held a newborn, you already know that the early days of feeding can feel like navigating this beautiful but incredibly exhausting maze. You want to get everything exactly right, but man, the sheer amount of advice out there can be totally overwhelming. So today, we're going to clear away the noise. We're looking closely at the actual mechanics of a baby's feeding cycle, specifically zeroing in on formula preparation and the art of the burp. By breaking down the information from our sources into really clear, actionable steps, we're going to replace that feeding time anxiety with absolute confidence.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've all seen it in movies, or maybe even done it ourselves, right? Holding a tiny baby over our shoulder and enthusiastically thumping them on the back like we're trying to dislodge a stuck coin from a vending machine. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why we do that? Our sources actually challenge this huge assumption that burping requires rough back patting. The truth is, a newborn system is incredibly young, vulnerable, and immature. All that forceful patting and fast maneuvering might actually be causing the exact chaos and spit up we're trying to prevent in the first place.
To get a complete picture, here is our roadmap for today. First, preparing formula without air. Second, visualizing your baby's stomach capacity. Third, why babies actually need to burp. And finally, 3 gentle, highly effective burping positions. Part 1, preparing formula without air, setting the stage for a happy tummy.
It is so important to realize that preventing gas and those heartbreaking stomach cramps doesn't start after the feed, it starts before your baby even takes their first sip. The preparation steps are pretty straightforward, but there's one absolutely critical safety rule right at the beginning that catches a lot of people off guard. Look at step 1, measure cold tap water. You should always use cold water directly from the tap and then heat it up in a bottle warmer or microwave. Why? Well, because using warm water straight from the tap carries a hidden risk of Legionella bacteria. It's a super simple adjustment, but an absolutely vital one for your baby's safety. Now, once your powder is in the heated water, you face a critical do this, not that moment. It's incredibly tempting to just shake the bottle vigorously to mix it up, but shaking creates millions of tiny air bubbles that literally turn into painful cramps later on. Instead, you want to use a fork to stir very gently, or just swirl the bottle in slow, circular motions. Swirling creates this beautifully smooth, bubble-free milk that makes for incredibly comfortable digestion.
Before we move to the actual feed, let's quickly cover some hygiene and safety essentials. Always test a few drops on the inside of your wrist to ensure the temp is just right. When you sit down to feed, remember to alternate which arm you hold your baby with. This actually prevents them from developing a preferred neck posture. And for the first 3 months, you need to boil bottles for 3 minutes daily and pacifiers for 1 minute. But I really want to draw your attention to a specific hidden danger our sources highlight. After boiling, scalding hot water can actually get trapped inside the nipple of the pacifier. No way, right? Always squeeze it out and check carefully before giving it to your baby. Section 2. Your baby's stomach. Visualizing the capacity. Now that we've got the perfect bottle of milk, let's look at the anatomical reality of where that milk is actually going. Understanding your baby's stomach capacity is crucial for understanding why we pace their feedings. Let's move to and see how this builds over the first 10 days of life. On day 1, the stomach holds a mere 5 to 7 milliliters. By day 3, it expands slightly to hold about 22 to 27 milliliters. And by day 10, it's holding roughly 60 to 70 milliliters. When you really look at these numbers, you realize just how incredibly tiny their system is. To give you a real visual aha moment, let's put that into perspective. On day 1, your baby's stomach is literally the size of a single cherry, or like a small grape. By day 3, it has only grown to the size of a walnut. It's truly amazing how small and delicate their digestive system starts out. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. By day 10, that stomach is still only the size of a kiwi fruit or a small egg. This is exactly why babies vastly prefer drinking small amounts frequently, on demand, rather than taking in one giant portion every 3 hours. Their little kiwi-sized stomachs simply can't handle a huge flood of milk yet. You've got to let your baby's hunger cues guide you. Section 3, why babies need to burp, the mechanics of trapped air. So they've had their feed, but what exactly happens inside that tiny stomach when air gets trapped, and why is burping so heavily emphasized? First off, you should know that swallowing air is perfectly normal. It happens to almost every baby. They might not have a perfect wide latch on the bottle's nipple, they might be going through a growth spurt and gulping their milk down way too fast, or quite simply, they're brand new to the world and still trying to figure out how to coordinate drinking and breathing at the exact same time. Combine all that with an immature digestive tract, and boom, you've got trapped air. So the crucial point is this: that trapped air takes up extremely valuable real estate in a kiwi-sized stomach. It can make a baby feel artificially full, causing them to stop drinking before they've gotten the nutrition they actually need. Alternatively, if that air passes down into the intestines, it causes very painful cramps. Taking just a moment to burp them resolves both of these issues perfectly, creating space for more milk and preventing pain.
Section 4. 3 burping positions. Gentle techniques for relief.
We know the air is there, and we know we need to get it out. According to our sources, there are 3 main, highly effective positions you can use: over the shoulder, sitting on the lap, and lying on the forearm. We're going to look at the mechanics of each one, starting with the most famous one. Don't worry, we've got this. The over-the-shoulder burp is an absolute classic. But you know what? It is very often done incorrectly. The incorrect way is to hastily pick the baby up and toss them far back over your shoulder. When you do this, the baby's delicate esophagus gets pushed hard against the unyielding bone of your collarbone. This causes a feeling of suffocation and physical pressure, which almost always results in the baby spitting up milk right down your back. The correct way is much, much gentler. Actually, scratch tossing them over entirely. You just want a straight posture. Let the baby rest calmly straight up against the softest part of your chest. The chest is a quiet place where they can hear your heartbeat. Support their bottom with one hand, their neck with the other, and simply give the milk time to settle downward while the air naturally rises upward. You don't even necessarily need to pat their back. Gentle rubbing is often more than enough. Our second position is the lap burp. You sit the baby upright on your lap, leaning them slightly forward while carefully supporting their head, chest, and tummy with your hand. And here's a brilliant little hack from our sources. If your baby is having a hard time getting the burp out, try gently raising their little arms upward in this position. Lifting the arms actually gives the rib cage more space, which allows the trapped air to move up and out much more easily. A real game changer. The third position is the forearm burp. For this, you lay your baby face down right along your forearm. Their belly rests directly on your arm, their head is comfortably supported in your hand, and their legs dangle gently on either side. This position is exceptional because the soft, even pressure of your arm against their tummy works absolute wonders for soothing a baby who is actively experiencing cramps. While they're resting there, you can use your free hand to softly, warmly rub their back. But here's a scenario that causes a ton of anxiety, especially at 3 a.m. What if you're doing a night feed, the baby finishes eating, and they immediately fall fast asleep before they've even burped? Take a deep breath, because the answer from our sources is incredibly reassuring. Let them sleep. You do not need to wake a peaceful sleeping baby just to force a burp. If a baby isn't burping and they aren't showing any signs of discomfort or gas pain, then it simply isn't necessary. Not burping is not dangerous. Just enjoy the quiet and let them rest. Finally, let's normalize something that often panics new caregivers: spit up. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is realizing that even with perfect preparation and gentle burping, a bit of milk might still come back up. Remember, everything in a newborn's digestive tract is young and immature, including the little valve at the top of their stomach, which simply doesn't close perfectly yet. It's completely normal for both breastfed and formula-fed babies to give a little milk back. Just keep a burp cloth handy. As long as they're growing and drinking well, there's absolutely no need to worry. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the temperature of the tap water to the size of a kiwi to the angle of your collarbone. But looking back at all this source material, it leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. You know, often when babies cry, we panic. We rush the bottle prep, we shake the formula, we hastily throw them over our shoulders, and we pat them hard, hoping for a quick fix. Their tiny systems demand patience. By swirling instead of shaking, and by holding them gently against our chests instead of roughly over our shoulders, we give their bodies the time and space to process their food peacefully. So ask yourself, are we actually rushing through the feeding cycle, creating chaos instead of the calm our babies truly need? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and here's to more calm, comfortable feeding cycles ahead.